area. We know that once.
I apologize. It looked like I could be being hacked right now. However, many of the campuses were taken over. That is the beginning of one. I would like to make sure we are still recording so that we can continue. I am being hacked. It is not me moving my mouse. Give me 1 second. We do need to go backwards. One more moment. Let's find out what is going on here. Okay, so now my notes are not showing, but asylum seekers versus the homeless crisis. Are they really seeking asylum or contributing to the homeless crisis in America?
Tonight, major U.S. cities running out of ways to house a constant flow of migrants.
I want to ask people, where do we go? Where do the families go?
In Seattle, asylum seekers now sleeping in tents in this encampment after King County ran out of money to house them at a local motel.
Incluso ahorita mismo nosotros no sabemos cuánto tiempo tenemos que acampar. Y si se extiende.
Adriana Medina and her young children among more than 100 people who were forced to pack their things. She says the encampment will just be the latest temporary housing her family will move into since they arrived from Venezuela.
Mis hijos y todos los niños de la comunidad están padeciendo mucho de esta situación, porque lastimosamente no pueden ir a su escuela.
Washington State has upped the budget to help migrants to $32 million, but that money won't be available until July. So right now, cities like Seattle are left to cover the costs.
I want folks to know that there's a crisis here.
And that's a problem seen coast to coast. States and cities placing limits on how long migrants can stay in emergency shelters. This week, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey signing into law a 9-month cap on migrant shelter stays, while also freeing up $426 million to aid in the ongoing crisis in the state.
We will change the structure of our current shelter system.
Denver, where officials say the migrant crisis has cost the city up to $70 million, will limit any new arrivals to a 72-hour stay at city shelters. For the roughly 1,000 individuals already in the shelter system, they'll get placed in an apartment for 6 months and receive additional assistance.
No tenemos un hogar, no tenemos la ayuda, de verdad no tenemos la capacidad de sostenernos porque no tenemos trabajo, ¿me entiendes?
In New York City, after months of back and forth between city officials and advocates, there's now a 30-day limit on shelter stays for most migrants.
And the homeless crisis in America.
567,715. That's how many homeless people the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development counted on a cold January 9th in 2019.
More than 500,000 Americans are homeless on any given night. But on the West Coast, the problem has grown worse in recent years.
Things haven't improved with the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Homelessness is on the rise in America.
San Francisco is rushing to contain a coronavirus outbreak that hit its biggest homeless shelter. The homeless population in the county is up 13% from last year. The city of LA saw a 14%.
Homelessness is growing, and governments have done too little, too late.
There's no doubt that the homeless are stigmatized. And all too often, we conflate the issue with mental health, or we just blame the victim.
Most people blame homelessness on the person. That they're a bum, or they're lazy, or they made bad decisions. If homelessness was a punishment for bad decisions, we'd all be homeless.
This is a complex issue. and no two stories are alike.
There are actually a huge range of forces that often kind of come together and compound one another when it comes to how an individual falls into homelessness.
But how did we get here? How did a nation with such wealth and prosperity end up with 500,000 people on the street? And more importantly, what about it?
It really is an urgent problem, and there's no reason that we shouldn't.
I zoomed in with a journalist, two nonprofit execs, and a formerly displaced activist to better understand the confounding issue of America's homeless. Before we can understand American homelessness, we need to know a little bit about its origins.
In America,
Okay, being that my screen has changed and I cannot see my notes, we are going to shut down and I will continue the presentation on another link.